Welcome to the Traveller's Guide to Warcrow from the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the wonderful nuances of this system, including the profiles, so a unit card, what's on the unit card, what the stats mean, all this kind of good stuff. We are going to be looking at the dice, the unique d8s which go into the system, and the stride measurement system. Before we do that good stuff, thank you so much to the sponsors of this series, the guys which are helping you get into the game. That is our friends at Lowland Miniatures. They are suppliers of multiple systems, including Warcrow and Infinity and Bolt Action and the like. So if you are based in Europe and you want some of the most keenly priced miniatures currently available out there, do check out their website. You will find a link in the description below. But now, let's look at strides, the wonderful unique system for measuring distance inside of Warcrow. There are your stride markers. Now, in the last video I said a stride is about 1.5 centimeters, but as a good LARPy friend of mine pointed out, they're exactly 1.5 centimeters. So each of those strides is 1.5 centimeters. You're measuring in increments of that. These measures you will find in the two-player box sets like Song of the Dormant and Winds from the North, but you will also find them in the terrain packs which you can buy. So you will need to get a hold of one of these. If you've bought something like the CNN action pack or the new Hegemony action pack or the upcoming Northern Tribes action pack, you'll need to get hold of a terrain set or a set of these stride measures from somewhere else. Some companies are making them so that you can actually measure distances in the game. One of the other unique things about the measurement system inside of Warcrow is that you move in a straight line. So let's say you have a movement of 4 strides, and what you actually want to do is move 2, then turn to the left 90 degrees and move another 2. You can't do that. You have to move the 2 strides even to get to the first turn, and then you'd need to do another move action to move around that corner. That's just how this wonderful game works. It's a very interesting nuance. Now, Frost Dice, the unique, flavourful dice of Warcrow. Look at them, aren't they pretty? All the symbols and the dashes and the doodahs and the dingly-doos, amazing. There are 2 different types of dice that you can see there. You have your defense dice and your attack dice. So let's look at the attack dice. You have red, orange, and yellow. And the way that I tend to turn them, and you'll hear me referring to them throughout this video, is strong red, mid orange, and weak yellow. So a star is a hit, or a success, technically. Then you have exclamation marks, and then you have unfilled successes as well. And you have unfilled exclamation marks too. Now the exclamation marks are used for something called switches, and so often are the unfilled hits. I'm not going to go too far into what they mean and how they work. That is for a later video, but they are a thing and they do things. So the red with 9 hits is by far the strongest, or most likely to give you successes in this little triad of dice. So 9 hits, 2 filled exclamation marks, and a hollow hit. So you're going to get something pretty much on all bar one of the facings. You're going to succeed, basically. For the orange, we're down from 9 to 5 hits. So that means that 3 of the facings here don't have a success on them. They're not there. You have 4 filled exclamation marks and 1 hollow hit and 2 hollow exclamation marks. So that makes the orange much more useful for profiles which have switches, that have things that they can do with those other symbols. And finally, we have the yellow, which only has 3 hits on it, 3 successes, 7 filled exclamation marks, so we are doing all of the switches all day long, 2 hollow hits, and 1 hollow exclamation mark. So you can see how they structure and how they work. Red, very potent, all the way down to yellow. Yeah, if you've got good switches, maybe. Next up, we have the defense dice. Again, strong green, mid blue, weak black. So with the green, you're looking at 7 blocks that you can achieve on those dice. So that means that there are 2 faces which don't have an automatic successful block, but one of those has a hollow block, which can be, in certain circumstances, turned into a successful block. And then we have 2 filled exclamation marks for those switches. So again, if you have green, you're most likely to deflect or avoid damage effectively. With the blue, we're now down from 7 to 4 blocks, so again, less potent. 4 filled exclamation marks for those wonderful switches, a hollow block, and 2 hollow exclamation marks. So you've got a pretty much a 50% chance of succeeding once at a block with the blue, but you're more likely to hit some switches as well with the mix of exclamations and hollow exclamations with the successful blocks as well. So, and then finally on the black we have 2 blocks apparently. So a very low chance, a 25% chance of succeeding a block, and then 7 filled exclamation marks, 2 hollow blocks, and 1 hollow exclamation mark. As you can see, there is something on every facing of all of these dice. There is something that can happen. It's just whether it's a direct, you did the thing you wanted to do with a success or a hit, or whether it's this is going to trigger something else on your profile if you have it. That makes it a great time to have a look at our various unit profiles and what they mean. And we're going to use a hegemony aggressor for this because they've got a good spread of stuff. We'll go some other things afterwards, but we're going to start with these guys. So the first thing you need to look at here is we have a points cost, a composition, and availability. So on the top left we have the points cost. A standard full game of Warcrow is 250 points. These guys are 40. That gives you an idea of their potency effectively. Availability. There is an availability of 1, so you can take 1 group of aggressors in any list. No more, that's your max. In the bottom left there we have composition, so we've got a little meeple symbol and a 4. Now most Warcrow cards have this, and this tells you that 1 group of aggressors consists of 4 miniatures, which is kind of really, really useful. I prefer, to be honest, this is one of the things I would change about the cards, because it's just down there, it's just sort of out of the way, and you need to know what that means for it to be useful. I think it's kind of a core unit. I'd like to see it in the top, actually. But for the time being, that's where it is. So points cost, availability, and composition. Next, we have characteristics and keywords. These can do all sorts of various exciting things that we're not going to talk about today. We are going to talk about them later, but right now, this is just a basic introduction. They do stuff. They do things. There is one type of characteristic we'll talk about at the end of this video, but for the most part, they do stuff and things. Don't worry about it. These are our core stats inside of the game. So first we have movement and charge. When you activate a unit, you can do up to 2 things with it. If the first thing you do is, well, the first time you do a move, you move 3 strides. If you do a second move, you do another 2 strides. That's why it's 3-2. The 9 is, if I want to launch myself at the enemy and duff them in the face, I can move 9 strides. So that is a whole activation effectively is charging up to 9 strides and then smushing people in the face. So as you can see, these guys can run a lot faster than they can walk. Who'd have thought? What will they come up with next? So again, we talked a minute ago about the fact you need to move in straight lines, so that charge also needs to be a straight line. You need to be able to see the enemy and charge at them and then hit them and engage them, and then you can do the violence to them basically at the end of that charge. The W stat is wounds per mini. So as we talked about a moment ago, there are 4 miniatures in this group, in this squad effectively, and each of them has 2 wounds. Every time you lose 2 wounds in a combat, you remove 1 miniature. Simple as. So there are 8 wounds in this squad in total. Next up we have willpower. That is for doing things, resisting things. If they were spellcasters, for doing spells. Those are the coloured dice, are 2 mid-orange these guys roll. You're mostly going to use that with these guys for resisting things and for shrugging off stress, which is where morale comes in. So more, or morale, of 2. That means that these guys can have 2 bits of stress on them before things start getting shaky. And if they go above 2, they have a very good chance of running away, which is obviously slightly inconvenient. So knowing what that limit is and being mindful of that is really important. You will accrue stress through spells, through losing combats, through buffing your troops, which we'll talk about in a second. You can stress them by doing that. So multiple activations. There are multiple ways that you'll gain stress. You just need to manage that effectively. There are certain spells and there are certain characters which can impact morale, remove it automatically, all kinds of things. So there's stuff you can do about it, but morale is a very important stat inside of the game. Next up, we have these 2 profiles. So what you have, if you look there, is an upper and a lower one. What happens is, as you lose troopers from a unit, as they become degraded, they lose efficacy, they lose output. We're going to cover that one in a second, but that's what those 2 sort of sets of stats mean. Now, let's look at an attack. So on the top left there, we have a sword. That tells you it's a close combat attack type. There are bows. and there are magic. So there are different types of attack. Underneath that, you have your attack roll. If you're going to smush somebody in the face with aggressors, you will roll, and you have 3 or 4 of them in that group left. You'll roll 1 strong, 2 mid orange, and 1 yellow attack die, and then a defensive blue, mid defensive blue. You'll also, because you've got that success on the right, they always do a hit. Automatically always do a hit. On the top right there, you then have modifiers. So you have that lightning strike. That means you can choose to stress these guys, and if you do, they succeed in an attack with another automatic hit, and they gain 1 filled exclamation and 1 hollowed exclamation, which are used for the switches. So, if on your dice roll you get 2 filled exclamation marks, you can cancel 1 symbol from your target. So if they roll a block, because you're going to do face-to-face, you're going to do opposed rolls, they're going to roll defense, you're going to roll attack. If they roll some defenses, you can cancel, you can just remove one of those if you have 2 exclamations. If you roll a hollow exclamation, then they receive the disarmed state. These are a negative modifier for future rounds. Don't worry about it right now, but it's kind of useful to be able to give them these states. So, if you do push your squad of aggressors in combat, they will automatically gain another hit. They'll get a filled exclamation to get them on the way to removing a symbol from the target, and they will automatically disarm the enemy that they've hit. But you will have a stress on you, and that will get you closer to your morale value of 2. So you can have 1 more stress, and then you start having issues. Now, you have a blue defensive die in your attack roll. Why? Because some enemies will have a offensive die in their defensive roll, so you can get hit while you are hitting. That is a distinct possibility. Think northern tribes, they're completely bonkers and they tend to do violence while they're defending themselves. So having a defensive die in there means that these aggressors can repel attacks that they receive while they're on the offensive, which is really, really useful and really, really potent. Next up, let's look at defensive. This is exactly the same gig. So the defense, you're always going to have that little tower, the little rook, which tells you that's your defense roll. Then we have a defense roll. They have a good green, 2 mid blue, and a weak black defensive die that they will roll in defense. We can push. If we do, they gain a filled exclamation mark, which gets them towards cancelling a symbol with their switch. And they get a red offensive die as well. So you can actually give yourself quite a strong defense and the ability to hit back by stressing this unit, by pushing them. But again, that's a choice that you have to make. It's a balancing act. Are they going to get attacked a lot? Are they likely to lose? Are they likely to get stressed and run away? Because that's what can happen if you become demoralised by going over your morale value of 2. Next, on the right here, we have a conquest value. Warcrow is a lot about controlling objectives on the board, so controlling a point. You do that by having more stuff. Some stuff adds more weight to your claim on an objective than others, and that is their conquest value. So you'll see some troopers will have 1, some will have 0 here, some will have 2. If your aggressors are next to an objective and the enemy has a unit next to that objective, and the enemy unit's conquest value is 0, the aggressors have 1, so the aggressors would hold that objective point and you would score that. Conversely, if the enemy has a unit with a conquest value of 2 and you just have the aggressors, they will lose because conquest value 2 is higher than conquest value 1. Relatively straightforward, but important to know. And when you become degraded and lose troops, some units will lose or have a degraded conquest value. So that's important to note. Speaking of degraded, as we can see here, when you start losing troops, when you go down from having 4 aggressors or 3 aggressors to 2, your output drops. So just a quick look at that. On the offensive, we used to have red, orange, orange, yellow, blue, and a hit. We now have red, red, yellow, yellow. There are less dice. You've lost the defensive ability in there, and you've lost the auto hit. We've also lost the switch, which gives out the disarm state. That's gone. And if you push, then you've lost that built-in hollow exclamation mark as well. I mean, you don't need it because you've lost the switch for disarm, but it's gone. So, and it's the same with the defensive. We go from green, blue, blue, black to green, blue. So that's 2 dice have been taken out of that. But it does become easier to cancel the symbol from your attacker. If you push, you retain that exclamation mark, but you go from a red attack die to an orange attack die. So it does severely hamper your output, effectively. Which makes sense. You've got less people. Things are going badly. They're not going to be quite as capable if there's less pokey sticks to poke people with. It's relatively straightforward and simple if you think about it. Next up, we have these skills that come at the bottom of the cards. This is a command skill. You have command tokens inside of Warcrow. You must spend a command token to do this thing. In this situation, if you spend a command token on the aggressors, then an enemy that you're engaged with, when you declare an attack against that target, you can push it 2 strides, and then you can move 4 strides to engage them, and then you start your combat. So if they're sat on a objective and they're controlling that objective, you can give them a push, shove them off the objective so that they no longer control it, and then you can follow up and continue the violence with them. So this is a good way of controlling objectives and stopping the enemy from scoring. There are various types of skill. That's the command skill that requires command tokens. You get a limited number of command tokens based on who you take in your army. Again, a conversation for another day. But this is a passive skill, so this is something that is always on. Okay? So commitment and composure your aggressives has do not cancel any die or automatic symbol from your rolls because of being engaged in combat with more than one enemy unit. Normally, being ganged up on causes you problems. The aggressors don't have that because they're just badass. They care not. So it makes them a little bit more potent. There are various different types of passive skill, depending on the unit, etc., etc. But that is the aggressors. High output, very, very violent, not too squishy. Gotta love them. But then they are 40 points in a 250-point game. So, you know, they want to have some grunt to them. That's one type of unit. Another type is this. This is a character. Now, what you'll see here, this is only one miniature. So there isn't a meeple in the bottom left-hand corner telling you how many people there are. There is only one. But we have a card that's split in 2. We have a top part and a bottom part. The top part is if he's operating on his own. If he's out doing his stuff on his own, that's his stat card. The bottom half is if he joins another unit, because that's the thing he can do. So if he was to jump onto aggressors, for example, which he could do, you can tell that he can do that because he has the join characteristic on the top there, so he can join human and infantry. That's his option as a corporal. And if he does, this is what he adds to that unit. So your aggressors would, in an attack, gain an automatic hit because the corporal's with them. And if you pushed that squad, they would gain another automatic hit. So a full squad of aggressors auto hit normally. And if you stress them, they gain another auto hit with him. They double that, so you do 4 automatic hits by adding the corporal to that squad. Likewise, in defense, if you push them, you gain another automatic defense. Crucially, he also adds an extra morale to their stat line. So normally aggressors are 2, they'd become 3. And on the right there, you've got the conquest value, which goes normally would be 1. It now becomes 2. So they're going to hold on to a objective a lot better than they would do on their own. He also adds a new command ability to them, so no line of sight, once during your activation, reduce the stress of an allied unit within 10 strides. So he can reduce stress. As I mentioned, certain units can do that. He can do that. He can just start taking away stress tokens from units, which is really potent. And he has the passive ability, You Are Black Legion. Your unit adds 1 to its attack rolls and 1 to its defense rolls, 1 success in either situation, if it has more troops than the unit or the sum of the units it's engaged with. So if you're up against a unit that's been degraded to 3 and you're full at 4, then you add an extra hit and an extra defense, which is really, really potent. Let's be honest. And that's all you need to know, really, about the profiles. That's how they work. So thank you as ever to our members and patrons, especially Archangels Chris Sexton and Mr. Cheshire, and our Nephilim Jim Callahan and Michael Rowan. All of you guys, especially priests, Archangels, Nephilim, you guys are doing fantastic work at supporting what I'm doing and making this possible. Acolytes, also, you guys rock my socks. If you do want to join, you'll find a link in the description below, and supporting the channel helps me do more of this more regularly, more consistently, so please consider doing that. Costs less than the coffee and makes things great. Next, we are going to have some more Warcrow videos coming for you next week as we continue through our Adventurer's Guide to Warcrow. But thank you so much again to our sponsor for Lowland Miniatures for sponsoring the series. I hope you enjoyed it. Comments, questions in the comments below, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Do like, share, and subscribe, of course, because I always forget to say that, and I need to, because doing so helps algorithm, blah, 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 blah. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.